guys? Gator Guy 231 here to break down 3 EPL slates on this Friday. It's awesome to have EPL back. It's going to be absolutely crazy next few weeks. I say this every time, but just because it's true. Like, there's a lot of soccer. EPL has all these staggered starts, so we're going to see like a showdown, I think, for every single game. Obviously, we're seeing that we're also going to have a classic. Now, the interesting thing with classic is going to be, there is going to be some massive lineup rotation, game after game, with all of them crunched so quickly in. So just having like roster flexibility is going to be really important. Making sure that you don't make like really, really stupid mistakes, like using your utility up too early, or screwing up midfielder or forward eligibility for like where's left. That's going to be stuff that you really want to make sure that you tidy up so that you have maximum flexibility. And I think this second classic slate that we have right away is going to test your ability to do that. So before we jump in, marketing plug. Check out FSI Premium Soccer memberships right now, $40. It's going to carry you through the end of either the EPL or the Champions League / Europa final, whichever one lasts longer, which is looking like it's going to be the European competitions. So it's an outstanding chance for you just to kind of, for only $40, to check out what we've got going on. See if this is the place that you want to, do all your DFSing at. Outstanding community. I think it's great content, as well as, we're covering every single slate. So La Liga, Superliga, whatever Liga is coming, we've got you covered. All right, let's jump into the games. So as always, let's start with the cheat sheet. Let's go over kind of odds, projected sets, go over some tactics, some top plays, get out of here. All right, so Southampton is going to Norwich. They are plus 120, so Southampton slightly favored. Norwich plus 220. Both teams right now are pretty much on a dead set split. So before they went, Bertrand had jumped on a ton of corners out of his fullback position for Southampton. Used to always be that Ward-Prowse was taking a monopoly, but he was losing sets. Bertrand is much cheaper and defender eligible, so he should be very popular. On the Norwich side, Buendia and Duda we're also splitting. It's really hard to kind of see because it actually looked like Duda was taking more corners, but Buendia is by far the much better DFS option. There's a lot of tackling, more shooting, just more creative. So I think he's kind of preferred over Duda for me, but it's pretty close if you just we're going by corners only. On the second game, Manchester United, Fernandez, the last few before break, had completely taken over from Fred. So that's kind of good news. Fred isn't always like the most ideal type of player to roster. So it's nice to not have to like kind of jam him in. On the Tottenham side, this is going to be where, things are tough. So Lo Celso was taking everything before break. But he is kind of dealing with some injuries, and we're going to see, like, Sofa doesn't have him projected. See a number of places not having projected, as well as Mourinho is very, I think Isor is iffy if he was going to play. So if he does not come, Ndombele has been taking some, and then Son would also take. I don't know if it would be a split, which one we prefer. That's a tough situation. And then, the other part is, how much do we value Spurs corners? They've kind of been a trap for, honestly, it feels like a year, especially since Eriksen left. Those sets haven't been that great. So maybe the actual answer is we don't value them too much and just kind of play without that in mind. Anyhow, let's jump into the tactics. So we'll start with game one. Then I'm mostly going to be doing showdown, but I'll touch on classic. So, for showdown, we gotta have 4 set takers. So that's for cash and optimal building. That's kind of where you would start. So, Bertrand, Ward-Prowse splitting for Southampton, Duda and Buendia splitting for Norwich. All of them are in attacking positions. So those are the best floors in the slate. Now, the most ceiling is definitely with Pukki and Ings. So I want to start with Southampton side. So Norwich, before break, its defense was awful. And that was when they had, their preferred center back, so to speak. Both of their guys are actually out, and Tim Klose Klose, however you want to say it. Hold on, what was it? Miroslav Klose from Germany for so long. So we'll go with Klose. But anyhow, I don't think he's played for like a year and a half. So it'd be a pretty rough start to all of a sudden come. So I do think that there's a chance that Norwich's defense is still a wreck, which makes me really kind of like Danny Ings. On Showdown, he's tough to fit because of his price. But on Classic, he actually comes in about 1,000 under the likes of Son, Kane, and Rashford, which I think will make him a lot lesser owned. So I do think I really started to talk myself into Danny Ings. On the other side, the Timo Pukki on both sites is really cheap for his upside. Everything in Norwich's attack is about, getting him service and, whether he's arriving late in the box or just trying to get wide so that he has some space to work in the middle. He's really cheap. So I do think that he's going to be a very popular second forward from a Classic cash build. And then on Showdown, I think he will come in pretty high owned as well. Todd Cantwell is a good player for Norwich. I guess I should say I was going to finish up with Southampton. So Obafemi, Jimmy, GPP only, Oybert. Actually doesn't take any sets, but just always shows up. So, if you are kind of in your last spot in cash, you want 6 to 8 DK with a little bit of upside, I think he fits the build. Stuart Armstrong just scored 2 goals in their friendly. It's always tough. He seems to, he's had a couple times he's broken the slates, but, it's not like he crosses a ton or shoots a ton, just kind of meanders his way. So I guess he's, just kind of like last man and much like Oybert. Jan Valeri, fine fullback. Again, I think I've already talked about like who I think are the first 4 in your lineup from an optimal building standpoint. So those other guys are just kind of last minute in, whichever one fits the best for whoever you decide that you want for captain. On Norwich's side, Cantwell, again, solid player. I would kind of call him a cash/GPP eligible. McLean, not nearly as good when Buendia and Duda are back. If you look back on his logs and you see like some 10-11 cross games, those were when he had sets. That was before Duda arrived and while Buendia was injured. Tete is just completely defender's destroyer. Max Aarons is the better of the 2 fullbacks in terms of crossing, a little more expensive, but if you want a more offensive guy, it's Max Aarons. I think I've covered that game well. I just will say this. I love this game for GPP leverage on the Classic site. So when you look at Man U versus Spurs, you've got the likes of Kane, Rashford. You've got Bruno Fernandes, who's tearing the world up. You have, Anthony Martial. You have Heung-min Son. You have all of these names that, the common player or at least somebody that's deciding to jump in the DFS lobby have heard of, right? Those same people have not heard of Danny Ings, have not heard of Timo Pukki, have not heard of Emi Buendia, have not heard of James Ward-Prowse. So when you just talk about like where the ownership is going to go, I think there's going to be a ton more on the second game with all these big names and big clubs. Whereas this first game could have fireworks. They're similar totals, but we've seen Southampton get super, super leaky in the back, and we have 100% seen Norwich do the same. And why both these teams are kind of finding themselves, Southampton mid to low and Norwich at the bottom of the table. So just keep that in mind. I think that's a great leverage play. This is by far my GPP game target. I think I'm gonna have a lot of cash in here too. All right. We have Spurs versus United. So let's I guess we'll just let's start with sets or United and we'll go from there. So Bruno should be the first man in every single lineup that you make. He has been probably easily the best EPL DFS player since his arrival. Sorry to TAA, sorry to KDB. It's sorry to James Madison, but Bruno's just been outstanding. He is on PKs. He is on, like I said, almost every set. If you see Fred run over to a corner, sorry, but it's not going to be very many. Bruno takes everything and plays an advanced role. So I think he's the first guy in your lineup, no matter what build you're doing. The second guy that, Rashford's back. So, he does not take sets anymore, obviously. He was losing some to Fred, and then now Bruno's back. Bruno's here, so he's not going to be on corners, but still, is a very, very high volume shooter, does draw fouls. After the injury, he's definitely going to be raring to come back. So I think he will be exceedingly popular on Showdown and on Classic. Best pivot from him is obviously going to Martial. Will come in a lot lesser owned than Rashford, with similar goal scoring chances. Now, if we do see them in this wingback system like they were playing, I think Wan-Bissaka is a very, very nice play for cash and GPP. When he plays as a wingback, he does actually get forward to cross them, but Wan-Bissaka's value really comes from tackles, interceptions, and fouls drawn. He's just outstanding at that. I think that he, kind of may very well have his way with Steven Bergwijn down that side. So, I think that there's some really good floor on him. Outside of that, if you want to go back to Fred, that's fine. I think that, if I'm being real, the only reason we were really playing Fred was due to the corners. When he doesn't have that, he might be a little overpriced for that. Brandon Williams, fine as a wingback. Just understand, like, United wingbacks, or however they want to do it, they are not like bombing forward for crossing. Like, that's not their game. They're a lot more deliberate. Martial and Rashford aren't exactly target men. Make sure if you see Brandon Williams in, that means Luke Shaw is in the back three, and you should be staying away. He has some okay logs, but you do not want to waste a spot in a back three today. You don't need it. And if you're going to do a center back, play Harry Maguire, who has goal upside. Luke Shaw's not going in the box for headers, anything like that. And speaking of Maguire, GPP play just fine. Huge guy in the box, averages about a shot a game. I have no problem with that. Tottenham side. So if this formation goes and we don't see Lo Celso, I would probably say Son and Ndombele is a split, with being more confident that Ndombele would play. Here's the issue with Ndombele. Like, Mourinho has not been his biggest fan. He subbed him out a number of times, even at half. So, now with 5 subs, I feel like there's a pretty crazy sub risk, especially if you look down on the bench and you see Lo Celso there. So just bear that in mind. But he's pretty cheap on both slates. So he gives you 60 minutes, is taking 2 to 3 corners on top of some open play value. I don't think it's going to kill you. Son is by far the better DFS play. Obviously, he shoots a ton. If he has some corners, that even raises his floor a little bit more. I will say this, over years of playing DFS, I do think that Son, and somebody's probably going to share a number that's going to be like prove me completely wrong, but I do feel like when Kane's back, Son is a little less DFS friendly, just because all of the attention goes to Kane in terms of service, versus when Kane's out, Son is the go-to guy. So speaking of Kane, I would just call him more JPP here. He's been out. Mourinho even hinted they don't know how fit he will be, but he's definitely starting. So, just reality right now, I think United is a better team than Spurs. So, if I'm going to spend up, from an optimal build, it'll probably be Rashford for Showdown versus Kane. But, that name recognition and just the reality of the quality that Kane possesses, let's honestly just call it coin flip. Just my preference would be Rashford. Bergwijn, fine player, just not a huge crosser. I guess actually technically he's, taking some corners too. So just realistically, like, if there's no Lo Celso, this corner situation for Spurs is a mess. So I just would really struggle to over prioritize it. Serge Aurier may have the best floor of everybody on Spurs. A very active fullback, not only with tackling, but with crossing as well. He definitely is more offensive and just a better player than Brandon Williams on this side. So, from a matchup perspective, I like that as well. I think that kind of wraps up that showdown and the tactics from that game. I guess I'll just kind of leave with just a couple overall construction bits. So, I already mentioned this, but for the classic, first guy in is Bruno. That would be like the freebie pick I'll give you, and that doesn't matter if you're on FanDuel or DK. That is the play. Spurs are not like a defense that we shy away from. If anything, they've actually been more leaky and giving up more DFS production before the break. Afterwards, I really think it's just going to be, your, I guess I'll call it the word willingness to, fade name recognition. I think on Classic, if you get with me that, Norwich and Southampton may end up being the better DFS game, playing like the likes of like Ings and Pookie can kind of wrap up that forward position. Now, it does take you off of Rashford and Kane, but that will make you more contrarian, give you some cost savings, and maybe give you a better balance. Final portion, just make sure you have flexibility. So like I've talked about a couple times, like Lo Celso, we really don't know what to do with. If he's in and starting, he's arguably one of the more mispriced players on the slate. I think he's 5,500 on Classic for a guy that would be on a set monopoly and just a really, really quality player. I mean, that's soft. So, you kind of want to have multiple spots. So maybe you want to have a defender spot available. Maybe you want to make sure that you have, maybe a second forward, and then that utility. So, let's say that you played two midfielders from game one. Make sure they're both in the midfield if you're waiting on Lo Celso, and Lo Celso's in your utility, so that you can make pivots. Because right under Lo Celso is a guy like Serge Aurier. So you could easily just swap out Lo Celso, put in Aurier. You get a high four fullback, and that is a perfectly fine cash build. So that's just, little things on construction just to make sure that you are giving yourself the best chance. What you never want to do is get into the second game, kind of something happens that you thought was potentially an outcome, and you're not ready for that move. Play around your builds. Say, okay, if Lo Celso is out, I can do this, this, and this, and make sure it all fits. And if you do that, you aren't going to get stuck. You aren't going to be playing a center back. You're not going to be stuck, in a build that is less than optimal, and giving yourself the best chance to continue to make money. Really, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment if you enjoy what we're doing. And I'll be back tomorrow for more EPL. Honestly, I actually might be out tonight if I can make it work with my schedule. So once again, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Bye.